Hey everyone, welcome to Future Forward. I'm Alex, joined as always by my incredibly curious co-host Rowan.
Hey there, I'm already excited about today's topic. I've been reading up on it, and my mind is genuinely blown by how fast things are moving.
You know what's fascinating? We're living through an economic transformation that's actually moving faster than the Industrial Revolution. Just imagine a world where scarcity becomes obsolete, not in centuries, but in decades.
Wait, are we talking about those science fiction stories where robots do all the work and humans just live their best lives?
Well, that's the thing, Rowan. What was pure science fiction is rapidly becoming economic reality. Since 2010, we've seen AI developments that have completely changed the game. Remember when IBM Watson won Jeopardy?
Oh, yeah, and now we've got AI writing novels, creating art, even helping with scientific breakthroughs. But is this really leading us towards some kind of post-scarcity future?
That's exactly what we're diving into today. We'll look at how AI is reshaping our economy, explore some fascinating experiments with universal basic income, and examine what this means for all of us.
I've got to ask, how close are we really to this future?
Well, that's quite a journey we're about to explore, and trust me, some of the numbers and developments might surprise you. Let me take you back to 1966, when Star Trek first introduced millions of viewers to the replicator. A device that could create anything from thin air. Pure science fiction, right?
Oh, wow, yeah. The replicator was basically their solution to scarcity. Tea, Earl Grey, hot, and boom, there it was.
Exactly. But here's what's fascinating. While we were all dreaming about replicators, the real breakthrough was happening in a completely different direction. Instead of manipulating matter, we started manipulating information.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about it this way. In 2011, when IBM Watson won Jeopardy, it wasn't just a fun publicity stunt. It was the first time many people realized that AI could understand and process human language in real time.
But wasn't Watson basically just a really sophisticated search engine?
That's a great question. Watson was actually doing something much more complex. It had to understand natural language questions, often with puns and wordplay, then search through its knowledge base and formulate an answer, all in seconds.
And now we've got AI systems that can do so much more than that. They're writing code, creating images, even helping doctors diagnose diseases.
And that's the key point. The progression from Watson to today's AI systems has been exponential. Silicon Valley essentially took these science fiction concepts and turned them into practical tools.
I've heard that some Silicon Valley founders were actually huge sci-fi fans. Wasn't Jeff Bezos particularly obsessed with Star Trek?
He absolutely was. And that's such an interesting connection. Many of today's tech leaders grew up with these visions of abundance through technology, but they realized that the path to that future wasn't through matter replication, but through information processing and AI.
So instead of physically replicating a cup of tea, we're replicating knowledge and skills?
Precisely. And that's actually more powerful in many ways. When you can replicate and scale knowledge, you can solve problems that were previously impossible due to human limitations.
Like what? Can you give me an example?
Sure, think about protein folding. For decades, scientists struggled to understand how proteins fold into their final shapes. DeepMind's AlphaFold solved this problem in 2020, something that could accelerate drug discovery and potentially save millions of lives.
That's incredible. We've gone from sci-fi dreams of replicating physical objects to actually replicating and scaling human intelligence.
And what's really fascinating is how the pioneers of AI have changed their views over time. In the 1950s and 60s, AI researchers thought the hard problems would be things like chess and mathematical calculations.
But those turned out to be relatively easy for computers, right?
Exactly. What they didn't expect was that things humans find easy, like natural conversation or recognizing objects and images, would be the real challenges. It's called Moravec's paradox.
So what changed? How did we finally start cracking these supposedly easy problems?
The breakthrough came from a combination of three things: massive amounts of data, incredible computing power, and new architectural approaches like deep learning. Silicon Valley essentially industrialized AI research.
And now we're seeing the results everywhere. In our phones, our workplaces, even in creative fields that we thought would be uniquely human.
You know what's really interesting? Many of the same people who once dismissed AI as overhyped are now warning that it's advancing too quickly. The conversation has shifted from "can AI do this?" to "how do we ensure AI benefits everyone?"
That's quite a journey from Star Trek's replicator to today's AI systems. Though I still wouldn't mind having that cup of Earl Grey tea materialize on command.
Well, while we can't replicate your tea just yet, we can have an AI system order it for you, track its delivery, and even recommend the perfect temperature to serve it at. You know what's fascinating about where we are now? The breakthroughs enabling this transformation aren't happening in isolation. They're converging and amplifying each other in ways that even surprised the experts.
What do you mean by converging? Are we talking about different types of AI working together?
Exactly. Think about how Edge AI, which runs on your phone or local devices, is now working seamlessly with cloud-based systems. In 2024 alone, the processing power available on the average smartphone matched what you'd find in specialized AI labs just 5 years ago.
That's incredible. So our phones are basically becoming like mini supercomputers?
Pretty much. And here's what's really exciting. These devices aren't just processing data. They're learning and adapting in real time. The latest Edge AI systems can actually improve their performance without sending your data to the cloud.
Wait, so they're learning without needing to connect to bigger systems? How does that work?
It's called federated learning. Imagine millions of devices learning from their users' behavior, sharing only the lessons learned, not the personal data. It's like having a global brain that gets smarter while keeping individual privacy intact.
I've noticed my phone seems to understand me better over time. Is that what you're talking about?
That's part of it. But the real game changer has been the development of autonomous agents. These are AI systems that can actually take initiative and solve complex problems without constant human guidance.
That sounds a bit scary. Are we talking about AI making decisions on its own?
It's more nuanced than that. These systems operate within carefully defined parameters. Think of them like highly specialized experts who can work independently but always within their area of expertise.
Can you give me a concrete example, something that shows how this is actually helping people?
Sure. In healthcare, autonomous agents are now monitoring patient data 24/7, spotting potential issues before they become serious. They can coordinate with other systems to schedule appointments, adjust medication schedules, and even predict potential drug interactions.
That's amazing, but also kind of overwhelming. How are regular people supposed to keep up with all this?
That's where another breakthrough comes in: natural language interfaces. We're seeing AI systems that can explain complex concepts in ways that match each person's level of understanding.
So the AI actually adapts its communication style to the person it's talking to?
Precisely. And the adoption rates are staggering. By early 2025, over 70% of businesses globally were using some form of adaptive AI interface. That's up from just 15% in 2022.
Those numbers are huge. But what about the investment side? Is the money following these developments?
The investment trends are actually even more dramatic. Global investment in AI research and development hit $2 trillion in 2024. But here's what's really interesting. It's not just coming from tech companies anymore.
Who else is getting involved?
Traditional industries are now leading some of the biggest breakthroughs: manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare. They're all pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
So it's not just Silicon Valley anymore?
Not at all. We're seeing innovation hubs popping up everywhere. Places like Bangalore, Singapore, Tel Aviv. They're all contributing to this technological renaissance.
It's like the whole world is part of this transformation.
And that's exactly what makes this moment in history so unique. We're not just seeing isolated breakthroughs, but we're witnessing the creation of a new technological ecosystem that could fundamentally change how we live and work.
It's mind-boggling to think about where this might lead us in another 5 or 10 years.
That's actually the perfect segue into our next topic, because the implications of these breakthroughs go far beyond just technical achievements. Let's look at what these AI breakthroughs mean for the global economy. The numbers we're seeing are pretty remarkable. Traditional economic models are being completely reshaped.
I've heard some pretty wild predictions about AI's economic impact. What's actually realistic?
Well, looking at specific sectors gives us the clearest picture. Take healthcare, for instance. AI-driven diagnostics and treatment planning have already reduced costs by 32% in hospitals that have fully implemented these systems.
32%? That's huge. But what about jobs? Are we seeing the mass unemployment that some people predicted?
Actually, that's one of the most interesting parts. The manufacturing sector is a perfect example. While AI has automated many traditional roles, it's created entirely new job categories. For every job displaced, we're seeing 1.4 new positions created.
Really, what kind of new jobs are we talking about?
Things like AI training specialists, automation experience designers, and robot maintenance technicians. But here's what's fascinating. These jobs often pay 30 to 40% more than the roles they replaced.
But don't those jobs require a lot more education and technical skills?
That's where things get interesting. The creative industries have shown us a different model. AI tools have actually lowered the barrier to entry for many creative professions.
How so?
Think about independent content creators. Someone with basic skills can now produce professional quality videos, music, or artwork using AI assistance. The creative industry has grown by 68% since 2023.
I've noticed that. Even my nephew is making money from AI-enhanced content creation. But what about the bigger economic picture?
The venture capital landscape tells an amazing story. In 2024, AI startups attracted more investment than any other sector in history. $480 billion globally.
That's more than the GDP of many countries.
Exactly. And what's really telling is where this money is going. It's not just flashy consumer apps anymore. 70% of these investments are in AI applications for traditional industries: agriculture, construction, logistics.
So we're seeing AI transform the old economy, not just create a new one?
Precisely. And this is leading to something economists call the productivity paradox resolution. For years, despite all our technical advances, productivity growth was surprisingly slow.
Oh yeah, I remember reading about that. What changed?
We hit a tipping point in 2024, when AI systems became sophisticated enough to handle complex tasks independently. Productivity growth jumped from 1.5% annually to 4.8%.
That's massive, but is it sustainable?
The projections suggest it is. The World Economic Forum's 2025 report suggests this is just the beginning. They're predicting AI will add $28 trillion to the global economy by 2030.
28 trillion? That's hard to even comprehend. How reliable are these predictions?
Well, here's what gives these numbers credibility. Unlike previous technological revolutions, we can actually measure AI's impact in real time. Companies using advanced AI systems are reporting profit margins 40% higher than their competitors.
But what about smaller businesses? Can they compete in this new economy?
That's one of the most surprising developments. Cloud-based AI services have leveled the playing field. A small business in rural India can now access the same AI capabilities as a major corporation in Silicon Valley.
So we're seeing democratization of AI technology?
Absolutely. And this is driving what economists call inclusive growth. For the first time, we're seeing technological advancement that doesn't automatically favor large incumbents.
That's actually pretty hopeful. Usually new technology seems to make the rich richer.
The data supports your optimism. Small businesses using AI platforms are growing 3 times faster than those that don't. It's creating a new kind of economic mobility.
It sounds like we're at the beginning of something really big.
We really are. And the most exciting part is that we're just starting to understand the full potential of these changes. You know what's fascinating? While we're seeing all these incredible advances, there's an intense debate happening about where this is all leading us. Some see a utopian future, others worry about growing inequality.
Yeah, I've noticed that. It seems like for every optimistic headline about AI, there's another one warning about its dangers.
And both sides actually make compelling arguments. The Oxford Economics study from 2024 showed that AI could automate up to 30% of work hours globally by 2030.
That's a huge number. But I guess the real question is whether that's good news or bad news.
Well, that's where the UBI experiments come in. The Finland trial that wrapped up in 2024 showed some really interesting results. When people had a basic income guarantee, they were more likely to start businesses and pursue education.
But can we actually afford to give everyone a basic income? The numbers must be astronomical.
Here's what's interesting. The Canadian UBI pilot program actually found it was cheaper than maintaining traditional welfare systems. They calculated a 40% reduction in administrative costs.
But aren't there concerns about motivation, that people would just stop working?
The data actually shows the opposite. In the Stockholm experiment, employment rates increased by 12% among UBI recipients. People felt secure enough to take risks, start businesses, or switch careers.
That's surprising. But what about the inequality aspect? Are we seeing any evidence that AI is making that better or worse?
That's where things get complicated. The World Inequality Report shows that AI-enabled companies are creating wealth at unprecedented rates. But the distribution of that wealth varies dramatically by country.
How so?
In countries with strong social policies like Denmark and New Zealand, AI-driven prosperity is being shared more widely. They've implemented what they call technology dividend programs.
Technology dividend programs? What are those?
Think of it as a way to ensure everyone benefits from automation. Companies that achieve significant productivity gains through AI pay a portion into a national fund, which then supports education, healthcare, and basic income programs.
But I'm guessing not everyone's on board with that approach?
Right. Some economists argue it could slow innovation. But here's what's fascinating. The countries with these programs are actually seeing faster AI adoption rates.
Really? Why is that?
Less resistance from workers and unions. When people know they'll benefit from automation rather than just lose their jobs to it, they're more likely to embrace the change.
That makes sense. But what about developing countries? Are they just getting left behind?
Actually, some developing nations are leapfrogging traditional development stages. Rwanda's AI healthcare initiative is a perfect example. They're using AI to provide medical diagnostics in areas with no doctors.
So AI could actually help reduce global inequality?
The potential is there. The UN's 2024 Digital Development Report showed that AI-powered services are reaching rural and underserved populations at 5 times the rate of traditional services.
But don't you need expensive devices and good internet to access these services?
That's where Edge AI comes in again. Many of these services now work on basic smartphones, even with intermittent internet. The technology is adapting to meet people where they are.
It sounds like we're at a crossroads. The technology could either create a utopia or deepen inequality. It all depends on how we manage it.
Exactly, and that's why the next few years are so crucial. The policies and systems we put in place now will largely determine which path we take.
So what you're saying is the technology itself isn't destiny, it's about the choices we make as a society?
Precisely. And that's why having these debates now, while we can still shape the direction, is so important. You know what's really exciting? While we've been talking about these big picture changes, there are communities right now showing us what this future might look like in practice.
Are we talking about specific cities or regions that are ahead of the curve?
Exactly. Take Medellin in Colombia. They've transformed their economy using AI and automation, but with a unique twist. They've created what they call innovation communes.
Innovation communes? That sounds intriguing. What are those exactly?
Think of them as neighborhood-scale economic experiments. Each commune gets access to advanced AI tools and basic income support, but they decide collectively how to implement them.
So the community itself shapes how the technology is used?
Precisely. And the results have been fascinating. One commune focused on urban farming using AI-controlled vertical gardens. They've increased food production by 400% while creating new types of jobs.
That's amazing. Are there other cities trying similar approaches?
Absolutely. Rotterdam in the Netherlands has what they call AI Citizens Labs. They've taken a different approach, focusing on AI-enabled craft production. Traditional artisans work alongside AI systems to create products that combine human creativity with machine precision.
So instead of replacing craftspeople, they're enhancing their capabilities?
Yes, and here's what's really interesting. Their products actually sell for higher prices than either purely handmade or machine-made items. People value that human-AI collaboration.
But what about smaller communities? It's easy to imagine this working in big cities, but what about rural areas?
That's where the Vermont Digital Commons project comes in. They've connected 30 small towns through a shared AI infrastructure. Farmers, artists, small business owners, they all have access to advanced AI tools.
And how's that working out for them?
The numbers are pretty remarkable. Average household income in participating communities has increased by 38%. But what's really fascinating is the social impact.
What do you mean by social impact?
Well, instead of technology pulling people apart, it's actually strengthening community bonds. They've seen a 60% increase in local business transactions and a 40% rise in community event participation.
That's not what you'd expect. Usually we hear about technology making people more isolated.
Exactly. And it's not just happening in wealthy countries. The Bangalore Collective is another amazing example. They've created a hybrid system that combines traditional Indian cooperative structures with AI-powered services.
How does that work in practice?
So, traditional street vendors now use AI systems for inventory management and customer preferences. They maintain their social networks and community decision-making processes.
It's like they're taking the best of both worlds. Traditional community structures and modern technology.
That's really the key insight from all these experiments. The most successful communities aren't just implementing technology, they're adapting it to fit their cultural and social needs.
Are there any common patterns emerging from these different experiments?
Yes, 3 main ones. First, successful communities maintain strong human connections alongside technological advancement. Second, they ensure everyone has a voice in how the technology is implemented. And third, they focus on enhancing existing skills rather than just replacing them.
That's fascinating. It's almost like they're creating a new kind of social contract.
Exactly. And what's really encouraging is how these experiments are spreading. Communities are learning from each other, adapting successful models to their own contexts.
It sounds like we're seeing the future being built from the ground up rather than imposed from above.
That's such a great way to put it. And it gives us real hope that we can create a future that's not just technologically advanced, but also socially enriching. You know what strikes me most after exploring all this? We're not just witnessing isolated technological breakthroughs, we're seeing the early stages of an economic transformation that could fundamentally reshape human society.
It's pretty mind-boggling when you think about it. We've gone from science fiction dreams to real-world experiments in just a few decades.
And what's fascinating is the speed of change. The numbers we discussed earlier show AI adoption increasing from 55 to 75% in just 1 year. That's unprecedented in economic history.
But what really gives me hope is how communities are adapting. They're not just passive recipients of this technology.
Exactly. From Medellin's innovation communes to Rotterdam's AI citizens labs, we're seeing people shape these tools to serve their needs, not the other way around.
Let me take you somewhere fascinating, to communities that are already experimenting with AI-driven economic systems. They're like living laboratories showing us potential glimpses of our future.
Are these real places? Where are they?
Yes, take Masdar City in the United Arab Emirates. They're using AI to manage everything from energy distribution to waste management. The system predicts peak usage times and automatically adjusts resource allocation.
And how's that working out for the residents?
The results are pretty remarkable. They've reduced energy consumption by 40% compared to similar-sized communities. But here's what's really interesting. Residents report feeling more connected to their resource usage because they get real-time feedback through their phones.
So the technology is actually changing behavior?
Exactly. And there's an even more ambitious experiment happening in Estonia. They've implemented what they call AI-assisted governance in several small towns. The system helps make decisions about everything from public transportation schedules to maintenance timing.
How did the citizens feel about AI making these decisions?
That's where it gets interesting. Initially, there was significant pushback, but they found that when they made the AI's decision-making process transparent and gave citizens the ability to provide feedback, approval ratings actually went up.
I guess people are okay with AI assistance as long as they maintain some control?
Right. And in Singapore, they're taking this concept even further. They've created what they call smart neighborhoods, where AI systems manage not just resources, but also help coordinate community activities and services.
Like a digital community manager?
Sort of. But it goes deeper than that. The system learns from community patterns and suggests ways to optimize everything from shared spaces to energy usage. One neighborhood reduced its carbon footprint by 30% in just 6 months.
But surely there must be challenges. These can't all be success stories.
Oh, there have definitely been setbacks. A similar project in Toronto faced significant privacy concerns and had to be scaled back. And in Sweden, they found that older residents were initially left behind because they couldn't easily access the digital interfaces.
How did they address those issues?
They had to completely rethink their approach. They created simplified interfaces and even set up community tech support centers. But here's what's fascinating. These challenges led to better solutions. The Swedish project now has higher participation rates among seniors than any other age group.
So the problems actually led to improvements?
Exactly. These communities are like canaries in the coal mine, helping us identify and solve problems before we try to scale these systems to larger populations.
What's been the biggest surprise from these experiments?
The most unexpected outcome has been the emergence of what they're calling hybrid economies. In these communities, traditional market exchanges exist alongside AI-managed resource distribution systems. It's creating entirely new forms of value exchange.
That sounds complicated. How does it actually work?
Think of it like having two parallel systems. You still use regular money for many things, but there's also a community resource system managed by AI. For example, in one Japanese test community, residents can earn credits for contributing to community projects, which they can then use for shared resources.
So it's like a high-tech version of a local economy?
Yes, but with the AI acting as both coordinator and optimizer. And the results suggest these hybrid systems might be more resilient to economic shocks than traditional models.
Sounds like we're getting a preview of what might be coming for all of us.
That's exactly why these experiments are so valuable. They're showing us both the potential and the pitfalls of AI-driven economic systems. And perhaps most importantly, they're teaching us how to implement these changes in ways that benefit everyone, not just the tech-savvy. After exploring this journey into AI and its potential to reshape our world, I keep coming back to one thought. We're not just witnessing a technological revolution, we're part of a fundamental reimagining of human society.
It's pretty mind-boggling when you think about it. From those early AI pioneers to communities actually testing these systems today, we're really in the middle of something historic, aren't we?
Absolutely. And what fascinates me most is how the challenges we're facing, The resource paradox, emergent behaviors, economic disruption, they're all pushing us to innovate in ways we never expected.
Though I have to say, I'm encouraged by how these test communities are handling the transition. It's not perfect, but they're finding solutions.
And that's the key insight. Like, this isn't just about the technology, it's about how we adapt, how we ensure these changes benefit everyone, and how we maintain our humanity while embracing these powerful new tools.
So what's your take? Are we ready for this transformation?
I think we're learning to be. The real question isn't whether AI will transform our world, it's already doing that. The question is whether we can guide that transformation wisely.
Sounds like we've got our work cut out for us.
We do. But you know what gives me hope? It's seeing how communities are already finding ways to blend AI efficiency with human values. Maybe the future isn't about choosing between human and artificial intelligence. It's about finding the sweet spot where they enhance each other. Though I have to ask, what keeps you up at night about all this? What should we be watching out for?
The biggest challenge isn't technological, it's social, making sure this transition benefits everyone, not just a select few. But the experiments we're seeing with universal basic income and technology dividend programs show promising paths forward.
So we're really at a turning point?
We absolutely are. And you know what? The question isn't whether AI will transform our economy. It's how we'll manage that transformation. The communities we discussed today are showing us that with the right approach, we can create a future that's not just more prosperous, but more equitable and human-centered.
Now that's something worth working toward.
It certainly is. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, keep looking forward.